Hello, welcome to World Autism Acceptance Week. My name is Dr. Deborah Baird. I'm a consultant paediatrician and I'm the clinical lead for the social communication assessment team here in Ealing. We're the team that see the preschool children. We also see the school-age children if they happen to have a learning disability, and we carry out assessments, and our most common diagnosis is autism. One of the questions I get asked a lot is about how the process works. And I'm going to try and explain in a nutshell how it happens. Step one is always that somebody needs to identify that a child might have autism, and it's definitely just a might. So if anyone has ever suggested this or raised this with you, please don't be upset. Don't think that it means it must be the diagnosis. But we ask that people like the health visitors, nursery workers, speech therapists, we ask that they really do keep their eyes open, see if there are any potential difficulties, anything that might suggest a child's got autism, and then start to make some observations, maybe keep a log of how the child's developing, improving, and talk to you, the parents, about that. They will then talk to you about the idea that autism is a possibility and could you be referred on to the child development team. When children are referred in to us, we do ask for certain things to be in place. We do ask that children are definitely under the speech therapy service and have had at least their initial assessment and a chance of some therapy. That might be a block of therapy in clinic, or it might be the therapist putting in a programme for the nursery and the nursery doing that therapy over 1 or 2 terms. We're happy to accept either. But we do find if children haven't even had a chance to get some therapy input, it becomes very difficult to actually try and make an assessment or diagnosis. So it really helps to have that in first. We also ask that the children are in a nursery. Again, nursery can do wonders for a child's social development, and we do find that unless we have an opportunity to see how a child interacts with other children of a similar age, which is what you get at nursery, it can be very hard to get through an assessment process. So if you choose not to send your child to nursery, we will still ask that maybe you go to one of the stay and play centres, one of the children's centres, something that you can go to regularly where your child gets a chance to be around other children. We also prefer that children are age 3 or above. This is because children who are very young, 1 or 2 year olds, just haven't really had a whole lot of life yet. They haven't had a whole lot of chance and time to show their developmental progress. And autism is a lifelong diagnosis. Once it's put in place, nobody reverses it. So we need to be 100% sure before we put this diagnosis in place. So we do ask that a few things are put in place before we even start the process. So once you've had your speech therapy and your child's in nursery or going to a stay and play regularly, and they're ideally 3, although we are a little flexible on that, you might then get referred into the child development team. That's the general service here, and everybody starts there, and everybody starts off with a general assessment. That assessment is about an hour long, and we need the parents and the child at that appointment, and we'll ask a lot of questions about the child, and we'll also want to do a physical examination, and we probably want to do a developmental check as well. Having done that, the doctor will then talk to you about what they've found in that first hour, and presumably send you on to the social communication team. That's my team. What then happens is that you'll be asked to fill in some much more detailed questionnaires, really detailed information about what your child does or doesn't do, what their strengths are, what their difficulties are. We get the same information from their nursery or from that playgroup that they're going to, or their school if they're older. We start to look back through the reports, through maybe the hearing tests, which we always insist children go for. We might look at education psychology reports, we look at speech therapy reports, and then we will assign them to a clinic type. We do different types of clinics. So sometimes we run group clinics. They're great for putting children with other children if we want to see how they respond and react to other children. We sometimes do individual assessments, largely for children who probably wouldn't get on with other children and things might get a little tricky. So sometimes we do them one-to-one. We also sometimes do assessments in the nurseries, particularly in our 4 specialist nursery environments, where the children are already in very specialised groups with experts supporting them. And for those children, it can be quite tricky to come to somewhere new and unexpected. So we try and see them in the nurseries where they can. Having had that assessment, and those assessments are a bit longer, they're more like 1 to 2 hours in length. Usually your parents will be there, but if we're doing them in nursery, actually the parents aren't present because we go in with the nursery staff. After that, the parents will have another appointment just for them. So definitely the child wouldn't be there. That can be face-to-face or a video call. And that's where we would talk about what our conclusion was. Now, our conclusion might be autism, and about 80% of the children who we assess do turn out to have autism of some form, but the other 20% don't. It might be that we feel that they've got some traits of autism, but not enough to quite meet the diagnosis. It might be that we think they've got some kind of language disorder that's affecting their communication skills. It might be that we think they've got social communication disorder, which is quite similar to autism, but has a few differences. It might be that we think they've got a learning disability, and that's what's impacting on their communication and interaction skills, not autism. We try and make sure that the assessments that we do are as inclusive as we can. So it includes everything. That means the information the referrer sent to us in the first place, the information from the nursery, the information from the speech therapist, occupational therapist if you've seen them, every GP encounter that you've had, because we have full access to all those records as well, records from your health visiting encounters, we have all of it, and we bring it all together. So our assessments are never just based on maybe one visit to a nursery or one appointment with a doctor. When we talk to you about the diagnosis, we'll explain why we think that diagnosis does apply or doesn't apply, and we'll also arrange to have some further conversation with our partners, Centre for ADHD and Autism Support, who can talk a little bit more about what the other options for support after a diagnosis might be. We also work very closely with our partners who run the Early Bird programme, which is a great resource for parents and very helpful. We know there are slightly long waiting times, but we do our best to get those down. Thank you very much for listening.